We are so back! Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome. I am so excited to finally bring you the project that I have been working on, well, since the season started, but even before that in both the PTR and the review build we were playing on. And I then am very proud to introduce to you what I believe to be the new meta for Sorcerer. At least this season, our truly best build with the highest peak potential, the fastest clearing times for speed farming, and all around an absolute blast to pilot. Of course, it still revolves around splintering energy and lightning spear, as it just outscales everything else we can do, hits the hardest, and we need to leverage it. But it is that leveraging that is completely shifted here. There's three ways then to produce the lightning spears to do the damage that you need to do. The first is just press the lightning spear button a lot with as low a cooldown as possible. That was the champion of Season 5, but that's no longer possible. The cap of 12 means it's kind of pointless even if you could, because you'd reach it straight away, and the nerf to Winterglass is the final nail in that coffin anyway. The next is, well, Winterglass for its intended purpose as part of a Frozen Orb build. The Frozen Orb summoning random conjurations, they become Lightning Spear, and off we go, on top of the extras you're throwing in from pressing yourself with a low-ish cooldown. The third, and what we're focusing on today, is Unstable Currents. As you obviously know, when you cast a shock skill, you get a random shock skill out while it's active. So if we can keep Unstable Currents permanently up, which is easy, and then attack fast enough that we are producing enough random shock skills that even 1/5 of them being Lightning Spear, because there's 5 shock skills to randomly choose from, though one of them being familiar means 2 out of 5 is going to give us stacks of Conjuration Mastery, which is lovely. But if we can attack fast enough to produce 12 Lightning Spears consistently via Unstable Currents, then we're on to a winner. And indeed, that's exactly what's happening. And as you're seeing, the engine for that magic is Lash. Now, it's not our fastest cast animation, but it is our peak potential of attack speed. You see, there is 2 attack speed buckets if you didn't know. Both can go up to 100%, so the most extra attack speed you can have is 200%. The first 100% then is from things like the near 50% attack speeds that Starless Skies can give you, affixes. The second is for more niche stuff, like the Unstable Currents 25% attack speed, or indeed, yes, Shard of Verathiel's basic attack speed. And that is why we're doing Lash, because a basic skill is uniquely, very easily able to have capped attack speed at a 200% increase by filling both buckets. If you hit this masterwork a couple times alongside Unstable Currents, that's the second 100% done, and then the first is very easy through regular gear and so forth. So that's kind of the basic foundation here. Have Unstable Currents permanently up and attack so fast that we produce 12 Lightning Spears consistently to hit the cap. But it needs a little bit of extra something, which is why we'll be using Overwhelming Currents for a 45% chance to cast an additional shock skill. And this is what puts it over the edge. And as you're seeing, I am hitting Conjuration Mastery stack cap. 12 Lightning Spears, 6 Familiars, and 6 Ice Blades for 24. I can't get Hydras out with this, so we are missing that potential 2 to 3 extra, but 24 stacks of Conjuration Mastery, with extra ranks to it from an amulet, you can reach in the region of 300% multiplicative damage increase. If you had a greater affix and you hit it masterworking 3 times, so you had that kind of ranks going on. I do not have that. I only have a +3 from a regular non-even ancestral amulet, because finding a greater affix Conjuration Mastery is like striking gold. And already this build, in the state that I am sharing it with you, beats out the Winterglass build that I previously shared. And that build had +8 to Conjuration Mastery. So if this build is even with it with +3, imagine when it gets to +8, +9, +10, if you GA and you keep masterworking it. Already, if I put this back on and we have a look, that's 11 out of 3 for 11% per Conjuration stack. That can go higher, and we have 24 stacks. That is the true genius here. Not only do we consistently keep out 12 lightning spears thanks to overwhelming currents, attack speed, and arc lash with permanent unstable currents, but we permanently keep up 24 stacks of Conjuration Mastery for a colossal damage boost. The sky is the limit here as your gear gets better and better and better, and you find these unicorn pieces to push it over the edge. And I cannot stress enough that what you're seeing here, the background, the footage, what I'm sharing with you, is just the start of this marvelous revelation. But beyond all of this, it gets better, because we are also using Elemental Constellation, the new aspect that makes the Elemental Dagger appear and do a pop of damage. So how this works is you cast a skill like Arc Lash, it appears above your head as you see, and then boop, zaps for damage. 260k, whatever. But every time you cast a skill while it's charging up for that 3 seconds, you add 100%. Well, what are we doing in this build? Literally casting, thanks to our capped attack speed, the maximum amount of skills possible in those 3 seconds. Which means when everything's going, we are absolutely blasting this lightning dagger, and then it hits for like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions over to even the billion territory on top of lightning spears doing all of their shenanigans with all of their critical strike damage, which is just wonderful. So we get Constellation popping bosses, we get lightning spears, 24 stacks of Conjuration Mastery, 12 spears, surge clearing, everything that we're doing, while also playing into Rakenov's Wake and the teleport enchant, so that while we're doing it, we are absolutely blasting down this teleport cooldown and clearing at a speed that Frozen Orb simply can't match. This is truly magical, and in terms of both speed and damage, lovely little 500 million there, it really cannot be beat. And again, to really stress all of this, I have a +3 Conjuration Mastery on. This has the potential to gain another nearly 210 multiplicative % more damage than what you're seeing today, and I will be back when, if I eventually find an amulet that can do that, to show you how good this really can get. But I really wanted you to see this concept, because I truly believe that with perfect gear, this setup of Lightning Spear is the peak of Sorcerer for Season 6, and really is going to be hard to beat. You have the power of Lightning Spear, you have the power of Elemental Constellation, and you have the power of maximum Conjuration Mastery stacks, which are the 3 most powerful things the class currently has at its disposal. So if all of that makes sense to you, well, let's get into this. Skill tree then, as always, starts us off. We want to fill out Arc Lash. We might as well, like it's doing a very tiny amount of damage compared to Lightning Spear and Constellation, but we have the spare points because we have so many points, so let's pump it up. Get Enhanced, and then finally Flickering, which is the big deal as this mana that it grants is what lets us infinitely slash at warp speed, despite Verathiel making it cost mana. Then we go over to our cause, where we simply fill out Potent Warden, because we might as well get that extra all-res, which actually in this build we can finally drop Rahir to get a little bit more damage from our mercenaries, and then nothing else really matters. We grab Charge Pulse into Enhanced and then Destructive. We're permanently unstable currents, permanently throwing these out. We might as well make enemies do 25% less damage. This build actually ends up fairly tanky, which is lovely on top of its damage and speed. Then we head over to defensives, where we get Flame Shield, just to have a fire skill for both Enlightenment and Tal Rashes, and then teleport to enhanced and finally shimmering, and that indeed is the first of our enchantment slots. Then we get ourselves max glass cannon, then ice armor into enhanced, and finally mystical for the extra damage to, well, frozen enemies, staggered bosses. This really does help, and it's pretty much always up with the cooldown reduction we end up with here. Then we put points into energy focus and dampen layer. I'll be honest with you, both of these are just kind of 6% DR for 3 points is hilarious, but again, because we're arc clashing and in the way that this is set up, there's kind of nowhere else to put points. You can genuinely spend these 6 points anywhere you want. I've just shoved them in here to, yes, make us a little bit tankier, get that starting barrier going. It's fine. Essentially, they are point dumps. Then we go on to Conjuration, where we get Familiar and then just Enhanced. We will be using this as our Burning for Devouring Blaze and so on, as while Unstable Currents is on, all it does is fire Familiars, and Unstable Currents is permanently up, so we just have endless fire Familiars, which is what frees up our enchantment slot. Long may that little glitch reign. Then we put 3 out of 3 into Lucky Hit, mainly just for Orange Herald on the ultimate cooldown reduction, and again, we just have the points, so yeah. Then Ice Blades into Enhanced and finally Summoned. This becomes our second enchantment slot for an extra 3 blades total and a load more cooldown reduction. Conjuration stacks, it's just phenomenal. Get yourself Lightning Spear into Enhanced and then Invoked, and then we want the Protection and Mana Shield defensives, and of course the big star that is Conjuration Mastery, with just how many stacks of this we can get. God, I cannot wait to see this build where this says 11-12 out of 3. In any case, literally double damage. In any case, God, please, I just want the amulet with a GA Conjuration Mastery. Then we come over here and simply get Inner Flames into full Devouring Blaze for that lovely crit damage increase. Then over to your ultimates, get Permafrost into 3 out of 3 Hoarfrost. We will be freezing enemies via Tempest, so lovely increase, and staggered bosses too. Then we get Unstable Currents and the attack speed. This permanently up is just delicious and a big part of why this works. Well, entirely why this works. Without Unstable Currents, 100% uptime, we just would not have the Lightning Spears to function. Get your free cooldown reduction, may as well, it's lovely to see. This is just a bit more damage. Again, spare points, we'll fill this up, do a bit more, alright, that's nice. And then a little bit more damage reduction from Electrocution. Lastly, we get Enlightenment, because of course, we're always going to get Enlightenment. It's a just ridiculously good key passive, and the damage from it is ludicrous, but also, in this instance, the attack speed is really MVP too. That then is your skill tree. Gear-wise, then, with our aspects to begin with. You want Overwhelming Currents for that extra chance to pump out Lightning Spears while Unstable Currents is active, which is to say, all of the time. Then you want yourself Elemental Constellation, as high a roll as you can get, of course, but it really does make a big difference here, so we can start throwing out those electrical daggers for big, reliable numbers. Then, on your Amulet, you need to have your Splintering Energy. We can't use a staff here, because we have to use Verathiel for both the attack speed and making our Clash cost mana to power Starless Skies, so the 1.5 times on the Amulet is the best we can do. Then your one armor aspect is going to be Orange Herald to fuel that permanent unstable currents alongside our cooldown reduction. Uniques-wise then, yes, Shard of Verathiel. All that matters is a GA basic attack speed. The rest of it kind of doesn't really matter. The all stats is nice for Paragon nodes, which is another little benefit here, but we have to have Verathiel both for the attack speed and again, so it makes our Clash cost mana, so we can use Starless Skies in the build, as it's way too much attack speed and damage to give up without it. I did kind of toy around with a two-handed staff with Splintering, and then doubling the power of Rapid for 90% basic attack speed, but losing Starless Skies is just too big of a blow. In any case, then you want yourself Rackenoff's Wake. The all resist elements is needed to be capped, and of course we need our armor and all res cap, but the cooldown reduction is delicious as well, especially if you get a little bit lucky like I have here, and then it has the attacks reduce evade cooldown, which is what lets us actually swap to teleport enchant only. Then we want Raiment of the Infinite. This lets us consistently group up enemies alongside our permanent spam teleporting, and is really, really nice. The dagger, of course, is a piercing, and that will go through the entire pack that you've raimented, so that's really lovely too. Then we want Tal Rashes, just big, big damage and lovely affixes. We all know how good this is. I have still not found an ancestral one that's good enough to replace this, and I've only killed Varshan like 150 times. In any case, mythic uniques then. Ring of Starless Skies makes your second ring. You want attack speed ideally, and then Air of Perdition for just its big, big damage, and critical strike chance is your friend here. For your affixes, then you want on your amulet, the ideal unicorn god tier amulet is Conjuration Mastery, Devouring Blaze, and then attack speed. This one is fine, but ideally those three are where it's at, and if you have to accept something less, percent intelligence isn't bad either, but I cannot stress enough, a GA Conjuration Mastery is by far and away the best thing that you can get for this build, and I will be hunting it furiously to provide an update for you guys. Then on your focus, you want crit chance, maximum life, and intelligence, so pretty happy with that one. On your gloves, you want attack speed, critical strike chance, and critical strike damage, so only 1 out of 3 here, which is very sad for me, but just had bad luck with gloves. And then on your legs, you want intelligence, life, and armor. So that takes us to gems and runes. For your gems, in your weapons, you want critical strike damage. In your jewelry, you want armor, so we can make the cap. And the one bit of armor gemage is going to be your intelligence. This then leaves runes, where we want the following. You want Standing Still, gives you your offering, and then the Rogue Shadow for Dark Shroud to give us a load of damage reduction. I'll explain a little bit more about this in a moment, but the other rune is going to be use a skill with a cooldown to get the Warcry for that 15% damage increase. So this one here, just to have a note on it then, because we need to stand still to trigger it, you might be like, well, we're constantly moving. The thing is, the game considers you standing still even if you only teleport. You see, it's just powering up even though I'm teleporting around the place, so as long as you don't actually walk and you only move via teleporting, this still keeps happening. And then Dark Shroud is a huge amount of damage reduction, which we do need, as without it this build's a little bit too squishy, so it works really well here. Then, as always, just the note to make sure as we go through all this, especially on Torment 4, have your armor cap at least 1000, and have your res cap at least 70% in all of them. If I use an ability, we go up to cap thanks to potent warding, and that's really, really nice. Let's get into how to play this, because of course that's the main thing. Use your lightning spear on cooldown, use your ice blades on cooldown. Save your ice armor and your flame shield for when you need the defensive help, and also to help cycle and build enlightenment. Unstable currents on cooldown, which is to say you want to have it active permanently, so just hammer it, and then no matter what you do, just hold down the R-Clash button. And if you've got like a default setup, you're on PC, just hold shift and then use it, and you'll just slash in the direction that you're facing. Can't do it without hitting something, because otherwise we run out of mana, but just do this. Don't try and do the kind of targeting where I'm clicking this dummy with R-Clash and he starts to move over to actually hit it. You want to root yourself and just slash. The reason for that is so we don't accidentally move to not trigger our rune, and then we just want to mostly travel via using the evade cooldown. As you can see, while you've got unstable currents active, it absolutely powers it all down, and you can really speed on through without ever actually technically moving. So just keep teleporting on top of enemies, grouping them up, arc-lashing in their general direction at warp speed, and then spamming all of your abilities. It really is quite straightforward, and enjoy the beautiful total carnage. Let's talk mercenaries and attack speed, as they're both important for this build. So just kind of stood here. Normally I have 63% attack speed, and this is ignoring stuff like basic attack speed. So I want this to be 100%. Now enlightenment is part of this. It should really be bucket 2, but whatever. So this 20% will go on to this. 10% from Variana being my support, of course, also adds on to this, which takes us to 90, and then ideally you want to permanently have on the Elixir of Advantage while using this build for an extra 15%. So if I whack that on, we go up to that 80, enlightenment would take me to 100. Now, that would make Variana kind of useless because she would overcap me. That said, enlightenment isn't permanently up, and Variana isn't permanently up. So I like to still have both to just have more consistent above 80% attack speed time. But keep an eye on this, and if you end up getting more attack speed, like if I had the ideal gloves, which should have attack speed on them, then I would drop Variana, because that would be about the extra 10% permanently, and enlightenment would do more the rest of the way, and that's why getting a GA and Masterwork attack speed on Starless Skies helps a lot. So with that in mind then, you have your primary mercenary, which is going to be now Subo, as we don't need Rahir's help to both survive and hit the res cap, and the reason for that is he just makes you do slightly more consistent, more damage, thanks to opening fire for that 25% multiple critical strike damage on your lightning spears. So get Seeker into Wire Trap, into Ready at Hand, into Cover Fire, and then opening fire. These two are really all that matters. And then yes, Variana for the reinforcement on Bloodthirst for the 10% attack speed, assuming you need it. If you don't, then take Rahir with the 90% damage reduction dome. Tempering wise, on your offhand, you want chance for Arclash to swipe twice and critical strike damage. You want on your amulet critical strike damage and unstable currents cooldown reduction to maintain that uptime, and then on your gloves you want critical strike damage and specifically chance to freeze. The others just aren't as good, we want that chance to freeze. Then on your legs you want percent total armor and chance to immobilize, so we can trigger both of our passives. One of the gloves, one of the legs, freeze and immobilize held together. Then for your masterworking hits, of course, Conjuration Mastery is the by far and away biggest one. Then you can't really go wrong with cooldown reduction, critical strike damage, and attack speed. And of course, specifically basic attack speed, you want to hit this at least twice. I have sunk so many resources and still not managed to do it. Woohoo! That then leaves Paragon and Glyphs, and I'll be honest, it is almost essentially the same one as your Frozen Orb version, because it's just the standardly best generic board. The only reason we'd really change is to add like Icefall if we were doing a specifically cold damage build, but Sorcerer Paragon is very kind of niche, so I'm going to attempt to go through this a little bit quicker, because I'm essentially showing you the same board in nearly every build. The usual warning that of course get as many of these as you need to be res capped. I don't need barely any at this stage, so I've spent the points on more damage, but keep that in mind. So on your first board you want to get Elementalist, Resilience, and then slot and activate Elementalist with the minimum points used as possible. Get yourself Elemental Balance, and wherever possible get every damage increasing magic node just as we go through this, depending on how many points you have. That said, optional ones that you don't need to get to move on, like these two, are the last priority, so don't get them initially if you have less points than I do. Then we head up through Studied into the next board, which is going to be, as per usual, Fundamental Release. Glyph close to the gate, we want to initially head right, grab Lightning Cutter, get to the Glyph slot and activate Tactician with very specifically the decks that I have done. It's very nice and neat, and grab Elemental Balance. Then we want to head up to this Int, and you want Overdrive, you want Electromagnetism, you want Suffused Resilience, and you want Kindling, like this, all active. You only need to take the extra damage reduction if you feel that you need it, or if you have more points than me, then you might as well, as we're running out of better places to spend them. That said, take all of the extra damage, especially the critical strike damage, as you have the points to do so. If I had a couple more points, I'd start filling in things like this percent damage to burning, and so on and so forth. In any case, our first board that we want, after grabbing Fundamental elemental release heading up here to the gate is going to be your Frigid Fate. We want to initially go to this int, then get to the glyph slot and activate Flame Feeder, while also grabbing Elemental Favor and Weakness. Then we want to head all the way around to Frigid Fate and get that going, and then we can branch right here and get the quite valuable Oppressive, both for more damage and damage reduction. Then we want to head right from Overdrive to the next board here, which is going to be your Enchantment Master, and initially to this Willpower, up to the glyph slot and activate Unleash for that lovely damage increase, and then grab Elemental Balance and Tactical. Now, Unleash does increase the power of your magic nodes, so you want to go out your way to get them all here, as they're more valuable anywhere else. Other than that, we then want to go down from this Willpower, grab Ruinous and all the attack speed around, and then keep on going all the way over here for Suffused Resilience for the damage reduction, but also because eventually, once I get more points, we will be going down here and grabbing Enchantment Master, so this is just some nice DR on the way. Then the last board to the left of Electromagnetism, like this, we have Burning Instinct, and we initially want to head straight to the glyph slot where we slot and activate Destruction, and then more than activate it by getting every single bit of dex in the area, as crit damage is everything. Upgrade this to max first before any other glyph, and you will reap the rewards. Grab your Cinders, grab your Explosive, all of the extra crit damage, head down over here for Kindling for more crit damage, and then head down here for some more damage reduction and armor to help with the cap. That's where I'm currently at with the points that I have. If you have more points than me, then very simply, you just start filling out all of the damage magic nodes. Get this burning over here. Then you can get this more vulnerable damage that I don't have. You can get this more damage to burning that I don't have. Same with this one here, and so on and so forth. Make sure you've got every single non-physical damage. Get this damage to elites. Essentially just fill out every damaging magic node that you haven't got yet. Grab the Enchantment Master, as I said, and then you can just start making your way to other clusters like Smouldering Embers or something like Guarded, and just kind of fill out the boards. That then, ladies and gentlemen, is that. My current magnum opus for Season 6, max Conjuration stacks, max Lightning Spears, max Elemental Constellation, just a trifecta of power that plays incredibly quickly. It is fun, it is powerful, and I really have been enjoying this. For now then, like if you've enjoyed it yourself, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.